More than 2 decades ago, Rita Hester brutally murdered in her Boston home, and those responsible still have yet to face justice. This week marks the 23rd annual Transgender Day of Remembrance in honor of all who have lost their lives to violence. It is a sobering reminder for Gwendolyn Ann Smith, who co-founded the TDOR in the late 1990s after Hester's death.
There was a time when I was much newer to this project where I really hoped that I wouldn't be having a 20th, a 21st, etc. TDOR, that this would be an issue that we would be celebrating its end. Rather, we're still seeing just how big an issue it is, and we're seeing this growth both in issues facing trans people and in trans violence. It's become something that is a regular part of the lives of many transgender people and those that care about us. Unfortunately, the amount of murder and violence that we face is quite high. It's very bittersweet for me in that regard, to realize that no, this is continuing to happen and will probably continue to happen until things change.
It has become something that is a regular part of the lives of many transgender people and those that care. Unfortunately, the amount of murder and violence is quite high. The human rights.
You'll have times where people will not be identified as trans, where they'll be identified by birth names and gender, and any notion of being trans isn't presented. But you'll see cases where it's like unidentified male wearing women's clothing, or a bearded woman, of all things, for referring to a trans masculine person. So it becomes harder to kind of find that data with that sort of language in play, or again, lack of identification.
And communities of color are most impacted. Nearly 80% of victims have been non-white individuals. Black transgender women represent nearly 7 out of every 10 of known victims since 2013.
It's impossible to deny the demographics in that. It's been a steady demographic in anti-transgender violence since I started tracking it, where you're seeing people who are attacked because they're trans, because they're women, because they're Black. All of these issues come together to create a higher tendency towards violence and death. And I wish that people would understand the most about transgender people is that, quite honestly, we just want to live. We just want to survive.
11 Alive continues to honor all communities through its Voices for Equality series. If you or a loved one is experiencing this type of violence, we have listed resources on 11alive.com.